But what I recognized is that I didn't realize how uniquely qualified through life experience I have been for preparedness.
Yes.
I was raised on a farm. We had a massive fire come into the back of our farm when I was a child. I remember being packed up, bundled into the car. It didn't come through the house, but everyone, all hands on deck trying to save the house. I've been through a couple of cyclones. I've multiple floods, Australia, of course, being fire-ridden. And
Yeah.
the things that I just assumed, and it really hit me in the Apagao last year and this year, was that the amount of people that have no idea, absolutely no idea what to do and no thought of preparing for it. And I just thought it was normal. I've been lectured on this by my mother since as long as I could remember.
Yeah.
And and right up to her passing a couple of years ago, she always had a little suitcase beside her bed or in the next room with her
Okay.
emergency stuff in it,
Wow.
you know. And so I just didn't realize. And I went, okay, I'm certainly not qualified in the field, and I'm not suggesting I know all, and I certainly don't know all in Portuguese circumstances, but I think that I've been through more than most, which has required that, and living a very minimalist lifestyle. So, I'd love to talk about it. So it's
Well,
great.
you're my go-to gal for this stuff, as I think you're aware now, and it's thanks to you, in large part, that we have a thread over at the Portugal Club, and you've really helped me actually as well, because I've had a long-standing interest, but not this anything like the same level of experience. I've known I've had to get my act together, and was first thinking about this kind of off-grid thing and alternative energy a long time ago. But it's circumstance, really, isn't it, that gets your ass into gear with this sort of stuff. It is an Apagal, or what we've been through in the last 3 weeks, that finally makes you get a Bluetti, a Starlink, and an emergency radio, like the surprise radio. It's
Okay.
tiny. This
And I'm
is really
interested to
good.
find out about that because I don't know about that one.
This is hilarious. I thought it was going to be a whole lot bigger. It's the that's my phone. That's the radio. It
Yeah,
looked a lot bigger online,
was
but
it on Timu?
it feels like I've been T-mood with this. It does work. It does everything it said it would do. It's just like so tiny, and it was quite hilarious when it came. But I've gone from the urge to be prepared, and to be fair, we did pretty well in the Epigal, and in this time, I was really pleased about how unpanicked our whole family was. I mean, we were shocked. Don't get me wrong, but we'd had some practice, and we'd conditioned ourselves to respond sort of calmly and not to be too thrown by what was happening. So some success, if you can call it that. I mean, it's not something. I guess it's a bad success, isn't it? To say you survived well in terrible times is a strange kind of success, but it is something we have to open our minds to. I think at the moment we were told, weren't we, last year, for some reason before the Apagal, make sure you've got a 72-hour backup kit. Why was that, I wonder? And it's like everyone's in the same way that, so many people are conspiracy theorists now, it turns out. Most people are preppers as well, aren't they? In the way that they used to laugh and point
And
at the
I think
tins and
uh,
beans and tinfoil hats.
I think that there's two definitions of prepping. And what I want to chat with you about, and I've literally got lists, so I'm going to go
Great.
very
Excellent.
listified.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is emergency prepping as opposed to how to live off grid. And
Yeah.
if the apocalypse happens, this could be for the next 6 months or 2 years while
I'll
the
sort
world
that.
is devastated. I'm not talking about that sort of prepping. I'm talking about being prepared for an emergency situation. And I
Yeah.
think this has been a really good highlight for people. Yes, I think 3 days is an absolute minimum essential to be ready for. But also, look at these towns right now. They're still without power and water.
Yeah.
So you really need to be ready for more than that. So may I just launch into running through things, and feel free to interject and
Yes,
ask or
please.
discuss.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. I think there's a lot of
Um,
sympathy for the sentiment, for sure, and we'll make these resources and lists, I hope, available on this continued thread over at the Portugal Club. But go ahead, Mel. Yeah, please do.
So first of all, know your neighbours, and get to know people. So before anything, know your neighbours. I would also take it as one of the things that I am trying to talk to people about in this small town. If you're in a small town, but even if you're not, even if you're in a bigger city like Caldas or Leiria or something like that, even if it's only within the immigrant communities, my recommendation is to get together in groups or do a coordinated function to collect, with people's permission, the names, phone numbers, and address of anybody who wants to be checked in on.
Yeah.
And I mean, I say this for me as a single person, and a lot of what I'm going to talk about today would also apply. I've kind of tailored it more to keep in mind that we have to be prepared as women. Now, yes, Louisa has a wonderful man, but he falls over and breaks his leg in the process of some emergency. She needs to be able to carry the things. She needs to be able to do the stuff as well. So we can't just get complacent if you're in a relationship.
Sure.
Or, if you're older, to say, well, I'm going to be fine because he can do that and I can do this. If you don't know how to use your generator, then you need to figure it out, both of you, because even if one of you isn't indisposed, one of you might have to have grabbed the kids and gone somewhere else. And something's happened at home or vice versa. So you have to be prepared for that. And so getting big clunky equipment that's mechanically diverse may not be a wise option. But also knowing your neighbours, and having a list, a coordinated list. So I would like to set up here a little group, a volunteer group that says who's willing to volunteer and be on the list if they wish. And so, you literally walk up and down the street, so I would say to you, Carl, can you go and check on Donna Maria, Donna, this is their address, or you volunteer to do that street, or whatever you may work out between you, and you go and knock on the door, and then you come back and say, they're all fine, and we tick them off the list. So we know there's people left on the list that no one's checked on, and no, we can't raise them at the moment. Does anybody know if they've gone to stay with, Tia or their kids or someone? We need to check where these people are. And
if
even
they
if
know
they
they're
wish,
being checked in on, they might be telling you that, mightn't they? Oh, somebody might be coming to check on me. I need to let them know that I've gone off to stay with someone else.
and they may not be able to, because in our circumstance we didn't have phone communication, internet, nothing. So we went and manually checked. But you can always put a note on the door saying gone to Leiria or whatever. And also, and of course, people opt into this system. If they've got plenty of people checking on them, they don't want to do, they don't have to. But this is for people who know that they don't have as much family around. And we just want to make sure that everybody's accounted for. They can put a note on the door saying, I've gone to my grandma's. Or we can say, in collating the list, do you also want to put an emergency contact, so that if we do find that you've fallen onto the floor because the roof's fallen on your head, God forbid, how do we get in contact with somebody? So that's something around knowing the neighbourhood, making sure that you have now, obviously 3 days is a minimum essential. But I would suggest at least a week. I would prefer at least a month of food and water in the house. And, I'm still using bottled water. I don't know the water condition situation here right now, but just to be on the safe side, I'm still using bottled water. And that's bottled water for you and the dogs, and to have a wash in. It's not just what you can drink. Obviously, washing is a lesser concern, but to have make sure that you've
You
got a
realise
stock
how
of.
much water you need, don't you? The first time the water goes off, and to me, that's the worst of the losses. We
Yes, we
were
die
really
without it.
lucky. Yeah, it's really hard without water. Electricity is inconvenient, and it gets worse the longer it goes on for. And internet, we lived without it before. We'll live without it again at times. But water's really the tough one, isn't it? And especially if you haven't got any water and you can't heat water, that's the one that I found most challenging when we've come up against that sort of thing.
And buying, which I'll get into more a little bit later, but buying water purification drops or tablets. Because one of the issues that some of the flood zones will be reached, and this is what happened to us in Brisbane, is that all the stormwaters and sewage started to flood and come up into the water. So when we were cleaning out people's houses, we're wading thigh deep in sewage mixed with
Ooh,
muddy water. So
right,
suddenly
okay.
people are getting sick and diseased. And
Yes.
so you need a way to be able to clean yourself. You need to be able to wash your hands as a minimum
Yeah.
with something to kill off that. So
Yes.
obviously antiseptic, having a little bit of antiseptic, that's another thing. Most people have a medicine cabinet with some first
Uh-huh.
aid in it, but you need a little portable one that's practical, because most of the ones you buy at Lidl are not. That's really practical for you in case you cut yourself, do whatever. Have some betadine in there, some antiseptic, alcohol, things like that, alcohol hand wash that you can throw in an emergency bag, and have an emergency bag or whatever ready to go. Like
You
I've
grab
always
that.
said, yeah, grab bag, but it needs to be all of your documents. Like the only proof in Portugal we have of owning our house is our contract, as our deed. You don't take it with you. You've got no proof that
Oh
you
yeah.
own your house.
Yes.
So you need those hard copy documents, and anything essential, a first aid kit. I also have in a little bag, just a little satchel like this, a little travel bag with a couple of sets of fresh underwear and a change of clothes, like
Yep.
just something. Once again, yes, because we want to have something nice to change into. But if you do happen to have got caught in sludge or mud in a flood,
Yes. Yes.
your clothes are smelly and potentially physically dangerous to be continuing to wear because of the germ
Hmm.
factor.
Yep.
So
Yep.
having a bag like that, having a thing. So and it depends on how much notice that we have. Obviously, an apagaw is a different thing. But normally in fire season, we hear that there's a fire in our region. We may be unlucky enough to be the house right next to it. But generally, we know that there's a major fire coming. But even before then, I would walk around my house and go, is there anything in this house that's an essential? If I have my mother's ashes on the bench, a photo that's particularly precious to me, yes, I may leave them on the walls, but in this moment, I am going to put them in the car. I'm going to fill up my car with petrol. My car always, 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 always has spare drinking water, spare water for the car, the petrol. If I know a fire or an emergency is coming, like I would have done in this storm, had I been given a bit more notice, I would have filled the car up with petrol, because when the electricity goes down, the petrol tanks go down, the petrol
Yep.
stations go down. So you need to be able to drive somewhere. I have a bicycle. I think it's
Yes.
really essential that someone in the house has a bicycle, because you might not be driving anywhere. In Coimbra, you might want to stand up paddleboard at this point in time as well. But,
Yes.
you need a way to get around out beyond your town to the next town. Um, and also, I would suggest that if you have enough warning, and maybe you don't, but if you're concerned and you have a day's warning, I'd be getting all of those documents, like, for example, now to put in for that support program, because I've got to replace my whole roof. So I'm going to be applying for that government assistance.
Hmm.
They require of me to put in my Certidão Permanente and my Cadeneta that's less than 3 months old.
Right.
So now I have them, but they're old, and I can't put in something for assistance without having a recent one. And we're fine here. Panisha's great. But if I was in Leiria, potentially I can't get to the IRN in Leiria right now in the floodwaters to go and ask them for my documents, to be able to get assistance.
So
So
electronic and recent versions are stored electronically, maybe accessible on your phone would be quite a good idea, or a stick.
yeah, and a
Yeah.
photocopy of your passport and your, those sorts of things, because again, you may have your wallet in your pocket, but it may have got left on the bench, or it may get washed away, or
It's
whatever.
good to have those things anyway, I would say, isn't it? Because
Yes.
that's going to save you a lot of time and trouble. Also, you have to have a clean tax record to get some of this help. I saw, which I thought was rather unfair and unkind. Did you see that?
Yeah, it
That,
is.
that, that some people
It's criminal.
aren't eligible because they're not up to date with their taxes.
You also have to have a clean tax record to renew your residency and apply for
Yes, yes,
citizenship.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, sorry.
And
Well,
similar to
that's
that,
part
so
of the
just
comparison. Yeah,
backing up
yeah,
your computer onto
yeah.
a hard drive, which is in your suitcase, and printing out any vital files. And also, I would suggest that you download a hard copy list of your essential personal phone numbers. Who am I going to contact in an emergency? If your phone contact list is not working, your phone is dead, you don't have battery, and you want to get somewhere and ask someone to ring your mother or Louisa, do you have her phone number on a piece of paper? Because I don't know about you, but I don't remember my son's phone number.
We don't
So,
we don't remember phone numbers anymore, do we necessarily? They're all sort of stored
if I've lost
electronically.
my phone somewhere, do I have 5 people at least on a piece of paper that I can
Yes.
go up and ask someone to help me
Yeah,
ring
yeah, a pocketbook.
someone?
A
And
pocketbook with
having a
things
little bit of
written in it.
cash out of the bank. I
Yes.
would have, if there's an emergency coming up, if I know in advance, I'd be pulling a month's worth of cash out of my bank,
Yep,
because the
month's worth of
ATMs go
cash.
down.
They
Um,
do, they do.
and
I'd
you've got to
never
pay
seen
for your
that before.
groceries at the
Yeah,
multi-bank go. And
I'd never seen ATMs out of action until that apagao last year, here in Portugal.
yeah,
Didn't
I
expect to
think
see
that
that.
was the main stuff kind of. Oh, and think about what you're going to do with your pets.
Yes,
Like
yes,
pull
yes.
your pet carriers out or have them already in the car so you can pick up Kitty and throw them straight into the carrier in the car in
Yes,
advance. Like, last thing you want to do is scared cats or dogs in a thunderstorm or whatever,
and
is
not in a
racing
carrier.
around
Can you
trying to
imagine?
catch them.
Yeah, like driving away with your cat loose in the car. It's
Oh,
like don't do that. Dogs might be okay like that, but cats probably not, especially if the vibes are a little jangly. Wow.
yes.
You can use alternatively have iCloud storage, and the junta are very good here at checking on people. That's very good to hear. I think that's testament to what Mel was saying about getting to know your community. One of the beautiful moments, Mel, for us was our neighbor. A few days into it, said, do you want a feed off our generator? You chuck over
Yes.
an extension lead, and it's just this gold, isn't it? When you have made a good connection with your community and neighbors, that's the sort of thing that can break out. And there's an extra level of whatever it is, like a barrier, perhaps if you're a foreigner, but make the effort. In those times, it's so important, isn't it, to be useful and to make yourself known and connect. Social capital, I suppose, that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Well, and I talked to some of the Portuguese about this idea of having a list. And unfortunately, because they're all so closely knit, what they said to me was, it's fine, we checked on people.
Yeah.
And I said, did you check on everybody? And they went, well, yeah, it's fine. I said, no
We
one checked
checked
on
on the
me.
people we know. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And,
Yeah,
and, and people did, and I was kind of lying because people did check on me, but there were other foreigners that came to
yes,
check on me.
yeah.
And so I said, some people get checked on 10 times. And I said, by the way, do you know this Portuguese lady over in the corner, da, da, da. And he said, oh, I said, because the place is locked up. I don't know whether it's locked up because she's gone away or because,
Oh,
and he
dear, yeah.
said, oh, no, I don't know. And I still don't know. I still don't
No, we
know.
don't like her.
Someone thinks, yeah. So
Okay.
hence why I think the list is important. And again, putting something in the cloud is great, but you can't access it if you haven't got the internet and you haven't got electricity and you haven't got or you haven't got your computer.
Yeah,
So yes, you want that as a backup, but if you bought it onto a hard drive, then you can drive to Lisbon where they've got electricity,
yes.
because you might have lost your password, especially if you use a password manager.
Oh,
You may
yes.
not have access to your computer. You may or may not.
Yeah,
So I think having a backup of the most essential things, even if it is your password manager,
yeah.
onto a hard drive is important.
Very good.
And so what I did that the morning of the storm is that I literally, with whether I knew people or not, I walked up and down my street and knocked on the door and said, "Are you okay?" In
Very good.
Portuguese. I said, "Precisa de ajuda." No,
Yeah,
no, no. I say, precisa alguma coisa, bata à porta, knock on my door. Ah,
yes.
mesmo,
Very good.
igualmente, Melinda, igualmente. No, and so I initiated that, and I also said to people that I could converse with a bit more, do you have enough water in the house? Have you thought about, because most people just went, huh? I said, go down to the shop. If you haven't got water in the house, go down now and buy water. Do you want me to go and carry, if it was older women, I said, do you want me to go and collect you some water from the supermarket down the road if I can get it and bring it
Yeah,
back? You've got bottled water. Fill up your bath with water so that you have water that you can scoop out and wash in. This sort of stuff. So I walked around and said, do you have electricity? Do you have a power bank? Do you have water? If you need something, come and knock on my door. I had people who said, my phone's nearly out of battery. I said, when it is, come and knock on my door. I have a power bank. I can just plug it in for you.
fantastic.
you know, and I think we need to initiate that. And also, like, we don't want to tell neighbours too much about what we have and don't have in the house. But for those we know and trust, I had just got a generator. I hadn't even got around to buying the petrol and oil for it. But I figured someone in this village would have it.
Yes.
And I'd spoken to my neighbour who has an undercover area. And I said to her, if we get desperate, if there's electricity strikes out, let me know. And I'll bring the generator to your house and we'll find some petrol and whatever in the area. And then everybody can quickly plug into this generator and we'll figure out how to use it on the spot. So it doesn't, like, I can't run the generator in my house because I'll die because I don't have an outdoor area.
Yeah.
But I can take it to a neighbour who does have an outdoor area and say, can we run this? And we can all plug into it, you know.
Yes. So you'll need the extension leads and distribution blocks for that as well to go with the generator, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's worth having a power board or something that you
Yes.
can run off of that.
Yeah.
But people just usually want to be able to get their phone charged and a light. So I think and I would suggest in summary, so I don't drag on too long, if you're not someone who camps off grid every year, go find a friend who does and just say, if you're going away for a week to an off-grid camping site, what are you taking with you?
That's a good idea.
Make sure you have that. Enough
Yeah.
food, enough water. What are they going to take with them to be camping off grid?
Or try it.
Power
I mean,
bank, lights.
yes, for some people that's their worst nightmare, but now might be the time to have a weekend like that, or sort of role play it at least to see what you might need in this event. Thanks, Mel. I think this should be a series, frankly, because there's another part to this, I think, which is and probably the biggest part of it is the psychological, mental preparedness, isn't it? For it's no secret, or we don't hide the fact that we are in these interesting times, to use the Chinese phrase, which I don't think that's an urban myth. Apparently, I don't think the Chinese say "May you live in interesting times" as a curse or whatever. But here we are. We do seem to be living in them, and we are talking about being prepared for them. And the mentality, the psychology, the the social aspect of that, having the conversations about it at all, I think, albeit sometimes uncomfortable, is really important, and it actually connects very well with the work that Vamos Bem are doing. I mean, their whole community is about aging and dying well in Portugal, which seems like a strange connection, perhaps, but their conversation is also about looking at some inevitabilities, and what we're talking about this morning seems to be an inevitability that we were briefed about. It can happen, it might happen more, and it's a really good idea to have the conversations and take the practical action. So I thank you very much for that, and we will continue the conversation at the Portugal Club and the lists. And I was very grateful to you for your suggestions about solar panels and so on. So there's so much more to talk about with this. A few
Can I
comments
just,
then.
may I
Go
just
on.
quickly add to that?
Yeah, yeah.
People say, in the future. I've been here, 6, 7 years, whatever it is. In that time, I've gone through COVID. I was down in Oddmira when the big fires come through and threatened coming over the hill to my now ex-partner's house.
Yikes.
We had the Apagao last year. We've had fires in this region and several other regions, and we've had this last week. So that's not unusual, for people to say things like this don't happen in Portugal. Well, that's 4 major events, as well as
You're the
expat.
common link, Mel. You're the
And
fire horse did it.
the fires did it. And what I just want to add to that quickly before we go, because I know we're out of time, is what I've witnessed in every case, probably with the exception of the Apagao, is sheer panic. Sheer panic.
Really?
I was when the fire was coming over, I'm like, as I say, I'm in this mode of get it. I said to someone, and we had all the neighbours kind of come into my ex-partner's house because it was a rural area, and they were down the street, and we said, you got to get out, and there's 2 exits out from here. That's another thing to know, that you need to know where to get 2 exits out of anyway. Get here, we'll all stay together and watch this together and see if we have to run further. They packed up their cars, their kids and whatever, and we're all standing there. But I'm like saying, pack up what you need out of the house. And what I watched is my wonderful ex-partner, who's a lovely, lovely man, completely freak out. He could not think well enough what to pack. And I'm like,
Right.
what do you really need? He said, I don't know. And I'm going, okay. take a big chill,
Calmer.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
calmer, and making sure in your friendship group, as you can see, I'm animated and fiery, and for sure, in an emergency, I go super calm.
Yeah.
It's really good to have one of those people that you know in your neighborhood to just go, okay, even if you don't know everything, we need this person just to go, okay, just, you know, I may not be the leader of the group in normal circumstance, but right now I'm the person to go, okay, can you go and do this? Can you?
Yeah.
I'm always the person who's stopping at car accidents going, okay, have you called the police? Can you call the ambulance? Are you okay? Sit still. Can you get me a blanket? You know, like this is, you need to
Yes.
know some of those people if you possibly can, because
Have one
everybody
of those.
goes into this fight and flight
Yes.
scenarios
Yes.
and freak out, and you need someone just to calm everybody and go, okay, this is
Yes.
what needs to happen, and slow everything
And
down.
just one other thing, you also need neighbours who dress as sheep at the weekends. Absolutely. We mustn't forget that, must we? On this auspicious occasion. Or maybe dressing up as a horse is more
For
appropriate.
emergencies than I do. Okay. Is he from
Put
New Zealand? Uh,
fire retardant on that. Okay. Our neighbours have been amazing. A few comments before we go, and understandably, an extended version today with the subject matter. And I think we'll talk more about this when you're back again next month, Mel, if we may. Our because that's the thing about this, isn't it? You go off the boil with it, and it took this situation for me to do what I said I'd do during the Apagao. I didn't do all the things I agreed I would do with Louisa, but I've done them now, or most of them anyway, and we've definitely turned a big corner with some of the infrastructure we said we'd have. And I'm going to run a show. I'm going to run a show off grid. This is going to be an off grid studio at some point, just to prove that it can be done. Our neighbours have been amazing. Say Queen and Convict. They've lent us cash. Now, this is the other side. I mean, yeah, I hear you. People do panic. That's human nature. But we should say as well, I want to say, the Portuguese are amazing, resourceful, incredibly community-minded folks, and it's taken this awful situation for us to see that again, how awesome the Portuguese community response has been. Politics mais ou menos as ever, but people with people have been incredible. Look, lending foreigners cash, brought round food and help with charging our lights and phones and tools. We've helped with our skills in return, getting into the spirit of it here. And what a welcome you've had to Portugal. My goodness. We do have a number of absent neighbours whose houses are damaged. We can't seem to get hold of them. And that's what Mel was talking about. If you had that list and where people could check in, then you wouldn't have that to be concerned about. Helen, we used the solar on our camper to keep the freezer running. Yeah, I know people who lost their entire freezer contents. Worth getting the backups for those. It wasn't perfect, but we limped through 4 days and we've since eaten the contents with no. He's still here to make that message there. That is one thing to do, isn't it, with defrosting food, is to cook it, of course, to extend its life. And lots of other things going on in the chat about Boopy. I think Boopy is about the land boundaries, something to do with the registry. And maybe that'll be one of our Portugal essentials over at the Portugal Club. I'll make a note of that. Vamos Ben, recommend them and their work, and it dovetails very nicely with the conversation we've been having this morning. And another Chinese thing, it's definitely a Chinese theme this morning. We've got Mel, the fire horse, who's been helping out with us. I mean, how do you intend to use it? Do you think you've been through a period of enforced stabling, and now you're going to run wild for the year ahead, Mel? Is that how you're viewing this?
Um, look, it's hard to say. I feel that energy very much. I felt that energy before and had it slammed on me. Even the
Right.
renovations that I did all year last year are having to be redone now because of this storm. So that's a bit constraining. But I think that the world is in a very uncertain place, and some of us were more ready for that than others. There was more preparedness around what's been come out now. Some of us
Yes.
knew for 10 and 20 years and have had a bit of time to emotionally adjust to that. And so for me, it's a lot around supporting other people and in an emotional capacity, and
Yes.
just allowing wherever the world takes me. Like I don't have big ties, so I can, if something's needed somewhere else, if things start to get a little bit, but they will get more wild than they are right now. And that's a good thing. And the focus for me is, it's always been, we have to let the old system crash so that we can build the new. Unfortunately, the old system crashing hurts a lot. So yes, they're supporting people in that emotionally, but also then going, okay, so what can we do to change this?
Well, that's
How do
it.
we, and there's some incredibly intelligent people who are creating alternate internets, alternate Googles, alternate
Yes, there
everything. Even the
are.
guy from, what's his name? Jack Dorsey. He set up, what is it? Bit something. So he's setting up a whole new outside of the fully private everything, I think payment system or something.
Why am I not
Um,
hearing about this on the news?
I
Joke.
don't
That was a
know.
joke. That was a
And
joke.
there's, as I mentioned to you before, there's a guy in Portugal, a Portuguese man who has a communication system at contact, and he worked through the whole thing. So he could contact all of Portugal. We need to get that here. We need, like, it's here, but we need to let people know about it. It's inexpensive. It's under €100 for the whole system. And we could have all been talking to one another, and the Fregziers could have been talking to one another, and the Bombarders and everything else.
Yeah.
So those sorts of things, if I can turn my energy to whichever needs me most, I'm happy to do so, because
I suspect
there's
you
a lot
will.
to be
I
done.
suspect you will. Mel the fire horse. And the other Chinese thing was, the again, it might be an urban myth, it might be a Western myth about the Chinese. This happens, of course. This sort of mischaracterization, but it's said, isn't it, that the Chinese character for change has threat and opportunity. We've talked quite a lot about the threat, but then in conclusion here, you've been talking a lot about the opportunity as well. And I think there is an
Huge.
incredible opportunity for humanity to dispense with some of these things that haven't been serving us, and we're kind of getting a pretty good clear picture of what they are right now, and what we might hope for could be coming into fruition, what some people have been hoping for, as you say, many years, 50 years, and certainly a ramping up of that in the last 10 or 20. Some of these
And it is here.
ideals.
It's
It is
already
here. Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
We
Yeah, yeah.
just
Well
have to
said.
bring
Well said.
awareness to it. The communication system is already here. The
Yes,
guys
yes.
built it. The
Yeah.
system is here. We just
But it's
need more people
that
to know
adoption,
about it.
implementation, and
There's
awareness
free
of that. Yes.
energy here.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
There's so many things that are already available.
Yeah.
It's just, we just don't know about it.
Quite.
So as people turn to go, we need to change this.
Yes.
This is the opportunity, I wouldn't even say of our lifetime. This is the opportunity of the millennia to go,
Woohoo!
let's
That
go, let's build, exit and
Vams and
build,
Bora.
exit and build.
That is a great note to end on. After the theme of the chat we've been having, and it's all part of that theme. It is. It has to be. So thanks, Mel. We'll continue the conversation over at the Portugal Club, and when we see you again next on the screen. So have a great year. Great year. It's like a birthday almost, isn't it? Go Firehorse, and all you other fire horses. Have a great
And
year.
ironically, I'm like you, Carl. I'm not a great. I love the look of horses, but they kind of scare me. And I was
Yeah, same
raised on a
here.
farm, and I
Yes.
don't.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. you could embrace the energy, if not the physical animal. Cheers, Mel. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow with actually Raquel and Nuno talking more about societal preparedness with our Portuguese BFFs. Take care, everybody. Take care, and bye for now. Ciao, ciao.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts